tunasema asante kwa wema wako, asante kwa uzuri wote unaotupatia, asante kwa baraka na mema, asante kwa chakula, hiki ni katika jina lako tunaomba. Amen.
Amen. Please.
Nice having you. Yes, I remember this for Africa. What's the best part that you remember?
Tomorrow is Wednesday. Yes.
This is an evening sponsored by the Peace and Social Justice Committee, clerked ably by our coffee maker, Donna. Hi, there she is. And our visit with Zawadi actually was delayed once, not visa problems, passport problems. It's one of those things that happen in the world, but we are very honored and privileged to have her here. Some folks at meeting may not know, but we actually pay her salary 1 month a year, one of the 12 months per year. We've been doing that for several years now because of the very, very important work she has been doing virtually alone initially in the North Kivu region of the Congo, Democratic Republic of Congo, which is on the Rwanda border, I believe, or close to the Rwanda border. She was telling me that she actually flew out of Kigali, which is in Rwanda, rather than out of Kinshasa, which is well farther south. Congo is a really, really huge country. I mean, it's like 2 or 3 Texases, I think. Jim, am I correct?
It's as large as the United States east of the Mississippi River.
Yeah, I mean, it's really, really huge. People don't have any idea of how large this country is. It has been beset by war for a long time. After World War I, the Belgians took over the protectorate, and country very rich in mining, which has made for problems in many parts of the country, as many different parties have tried to gain the mining wealth. When I was talking with Zawadi in the car coming down here today, I said, so if you needed one thing, she gave me 2, one thing that we could be using our contributions toward, what would it be? And she said, well, you know, and you'll be getting the full presentation, but she said, you know, the women, once they do get out of the camps, where you will hear more about the presentation, they really come out with nothing. And what she'd like to do is to set up a trust fund where, kind of like a micro loan fund, but a trust fund just to help women get settled and get back on their feet once they have left the camps after the horrible things that have occurred to them. And she says they've actually had a little test project with 25 women, and it has worked great. So she wishes to raise $5,000 for this. So if there's anybody that's got $5,000, please put it in the hat. But if you feel moved to give more than you've already given, or more than $5,000, she has another project too, because she'd actually like to also start a vocational training center for the women as well. But you'll hear about that in the course of her presentation. So we welcome Zawadi to our meeting.
As David has just said, I always move around with my map so that people can actually know where they can locate Congo. You know, Africa is big. Some people have just an idea maybe of 1 or 2 countries. So I always move around with it to help people understand. Yeah, so this is the map of Africa, and this big chunk here, this is Congo, Democratic Republic of Congo, because this one here is Congo as well, Brazzaville, and this is Congo Kinshasa, or Democratic Republic of Congo. So I come from the eastern part. It's here, like just at the boundary with Rwanda. Actually, like from the boundary walking to my parents' home, it's 10 to 15 minutes walk. So we cross over, and every now and then, anytime, we can cross over to go to the beach, because they have a nice beach on the Rwandan side. There's a lake which separates us, and the lake goes from one end, actually, goes through, and that's what they call it, the African Great Region of Africa. I mean, this Rwanda, Burundi, and Congo. I come from the Congo yearly meeting. For the past decade, I've been doing peace work in the region, Rwanda, Kenya, sometimes in Burundi. So most of the time I tell people I'm regional. It's very hard to locate myself. I call myself I'm regional because I can adapt anywhere, and I spoke most of all those languages. African Great Lakes Initiative has helped us in many ways. Well, I worked in Rwanda for 4 years with the Friends Peace House in Kigali. This is a quick organization which was involved in peace building work. And that's where I came actually to meet with David Zaremka, because we were trying to get involved in peace activities after the genocide, trying to help the local community find itself, reconnect to the community and to the nation. From there, after 4 years, I moved to Congo, but the situation was not good. Then I went to Kenya, where I was consulting with the change agent for Peace International. This is a Quaker-founded organization. It began by the Quaker Service Norway in 1999. So I was there like for 9 months. But later on I said, no, let me just go and do some work in Congo, because I hoped to begin work, but wars were like on, off, on, off. And it was very hard to decide, because working in some conditions was not actually like exposing yourself to high risks, especially where most of the people were working, were living in the countrysides. That's where most of the consequences of war were felt. All these wars have mainly affected every Congolese, but people in the countrysides are the ones who have suffered the most, because the wars always began in the side countries, and people are like, why? These people hardly understand what's going on. But when you hear gunshot, you don't ask or try to find out what's happening. You start figuring out, where am I going from here? We always say that whenever 2 elephants are fighting, it's the grass which suffers. And that's what has been happening. Most of the wars will be planned by people out there, but the consequences will always fall on people in the villages, grassroots people who have no idea, who are not even concerned. With the wars for the past decade, almost 14 years now, Congo has been at war. It began as a political war, people saying, okay, we want to kick out the then President Mobutu, the dictator. We want to welcome multipartyism. And people are like, yes, welcome democracy. And when they were having these negotiations, Mobutu used to tell them, you want me to go? I will go, but after me it will be chaos. And it has been chaos indeed. Since he left, people can hardly say that they know what peace is. Sometimes they even wish he was still alive, because people didn't have to run like they're running now. Now we are counting between 6 and 8 million people who have died in the last 14 years, and who knows, there are even more, because there are people who used to go and hide in the bushes. They'll die of hunger or heavy rains, and no one will know about them. People continue thinking maybe they fled to other countries, neighboring countries, because Congo borders with 9 countries. So sometimes people think, oh, maybe they fled to other countries. But no, they died in the forest. So the numbers might even be higher than what you're thinking. With wars, there are always consequences. The eastern part of Congo has had the most painful experience. I normally work from the north part, but even the southern part of eastern Congo is still suffering. And the southern part, it borders with Burundi, where some of you might know Adrian comes from. When it reached 2005, we just said, enough is enough. People have to begin doing some peace activities. Of course, whenever there is war, humanitarian assistance will come in, international NGOs will come in. That was like emergency, but little was done psychologically. And that's where African Great Lakes Initiative comes in most of the time. Because people are just used, when you have refugees or internally displaced persons, what is needed is water, shelter, medication, They do 5 things, basic needs. But there's something which was always forgotten. The psychological part of the human being. That's the inner person. In most of the cases, which is so much destroyed. Because people get it inside. We always say that you can have an outside scar and people can see it, but the inside one, it's known by you. And we have seen it, where people are now having all these signs of trauma. After 7 years, seeing blood, seeing all kinds of things, violence, taking in, can no longer be the same. So we requested African Great Lakes Initiative if it can jump in with some alternative to violence project, which it did. But again, we erupted, and that disrupted the whole thing. We took a break. Then 2007, I requested Dev, can we begin this program again? Because now we are really suffering. You can see even the secondary trauma coming to people of Goma. Goma is a city, and whenever there are wars, people flee their villages, coming to the city. So you end up housing relatives, or you hear stories of your loved ones who have been killed, and we could even sense the tension even in the city. So I said, okay, fine, we can begin it, we can give it a try, but I requested if we can have the healing and rebuilding our community program, which is more of a healing program to heal people from their trauma, help them understand, help them deal with it, and especially to give them hope that after traumatic event, life continues. We began working with the communities in Goma. That was in May 2007. The same year, end of August, war erupted again. And here, people fled their villages to the city of Goma. We had about 5 camps, but 4 were major ones. And here we are talking about 60,000 people fleeing their villages. Name them, old people, children, men who managed to escape, because whenever there's an attack, they go for men first and young men, because they can join in the fighting, they can help carry heavy stuff around. Then we said, the field has come closer. So we teamed up with the change agent peace programs. We came up with a program which we call the peace program, which involved mainly alternative to violence program, the healing and rebuilding our community program, and mediation. And at that time, the camps were all over, and people are just, humanitarian assistance coming in, international NGOs coming in. So when we got the camps, people are just despising us. People are in need of food, health care, and shelter, and you're just coming, you're going to train? What are you going to train with anyway? Do you think really these people need trainings at this time? We said, yes, we think so. No, we're just a small group of people. They're just looking at us. They have their big vehicles with flags, with the international NGOs, so they're just like, these people are jokers. But because we knew what going to do there? And we knew how it works because we had seen it working. So, okay, at the end, we were welcomed in. People will come, and we'll make sure also we invite people from different organizations because like each organization had an office in the camp. So we'll make sure we also invite them to come and hear what we are teaching. Each training takes 3 days. And then after the 3 workshops, we used to come up with what we call the Peace Committee. This was to empower the local people at the grassroots level to own the process of peace building. Because we had come to realize that people at the grassroots level and the politicians don't talk the same language when it comes to peace. Politically, when there are no gunshots, it's peace. But down there, if the common man cannot farm, cannot sleep in his own house, it's not peace for him. So we said these people also have to get involved. If we are talking about ownership of the program, if they have to be aware of what is happening around, they have to be involved. And one of the ways of being involved is giving them skills whereby they can be able to solve even their own problems. Because we had seen some people moving from their villages and coming into the camps with their conflicts. And whenever there are conflicts, they'll call us. We'll go there, try to solve, but we don't know the root causes. So at the end, it will be calming the situation. After a week, the conflict erupts again. We don't know, we're just solving the consequences. But if we involve people, they know one another. And again, they'll trust one another. They have to feel that they are responsible for their own conflict rather than bringing in outsiders. And this was a way also of empowering them, helping them feel that they can actually do it. Because they are now putting so much trust in outsiders and international organizations. Help us. Hello, it's very difficult. I can jump in with my thinking, but if I really don't understand the situation, I'm not going to be that helpful either. And that actually brought in some positive change in the camps because people are very sensitive to one another. A small thing, people turned violent. Kids fighting, at the end of the day, parents will also come with the problem. Because, people are like traumatized, and that's actually when you realize that trauma can cause violence, and violence can cause trauma. In 2009, last year in September, the government decided it's closing the camps. It's peaceful. People should return to their villages. We were all shocked. It was announced and it was like in 1 month you have to leave. People had no choice but to say yes. On one end it was like, okay, it's good, but it should have been voluntary, informed, and planned, as the international law says it. But none of this was met. People had no choice, they had to go. So also that meant all the energy you had put together was going to be dispersed because all these people we trained did not come from the same area. As we were thinking on how we're going to do the follow-up on our trainings in the camps and all that we had invested in, there's a particular lady who came to me and said, Zawadi, whenever we attend your trainings, we feel that we needed to participate, but we couldn't participate. And yet, we also have something to share. So I would say, we, who is we? It's a group of us. Who is we, us? Well, it's a group of women who are survivors of rape. As I said, rape also was one of the consequences of war in Congo. It has been used as a weapon of war. People were raped from all ages, from young girls as 8 to old women. 80 years old, 85, 90 years old. These guys never cared. And they were gang raped, brutally raped, they were mutilated. It's terrible, it's a horrible story. So I looked at her twice, I'm like, because she looked beautiful. I have a picture there, and she was like, oh, are you one of them? I said, yes. And she even told me that actually, she was also her mother, who was 70, and her sisters, 3 of her sisters, were gang raped in front of their father and in front of their brother. And as a result, after a week, the mother died. The brother was so annoyed that he joined the militia so that he could revenge for his sisters. 2 years later, the dad could not take it in because even they were ashamed, they fled the village, they were shunned away. The two years later, also the father died. So I said, wow, then I can't give you an answer here. Let me go. I'll get to you later. Because I had to go and consult with my colleagues at work. We work under an umbrella organization, and at that time I was in the team what we call the Goma Relief. So any decision actually had to be taken in a group, because here it involved funding and so on. You had to distribute all different funding we had together. And they said, yes, it's a great idea, but it's so much money, it's nowhere in our budget. We are trying to help people to go and resettle in their villages. And they were like, I mean, okay, Zawadi, you do what you feel you can do, because this is your program, the healing and reconciliation program. Okay, handle how you can do it. The following day I returned to the camps, and I was sure Rebecca would come running to me to ask me what next. So she came and said, have you gotten an answer? I told her, because people are now in the mood of, in the confusion of going back home, let us first see who is going to go and who is remaining behind. Because I know there were many of them indeed. And here the camps were closing, and these people can't go back home. Because of one, what happened, the rape happened in the villages. They are still traumatized. They still have bad memories of their villages. Secondly, they were shunned away by their families. No one will accept them to go back. Thirdly, some of them are still very weak due to the disabilities and caused by the rape. And they have to still be on medication and regular checkups. As I finished with Rebecca, another young girl came to me, 16 years, holding a baby in her hands, a beautiful baby. She told me, hi, I have a problem, I wonder if you can help me. I was like, why? What kind of problem? I said, well, I'm a rape survivor, this is my product of rape. I have nowhere to go. Can you help me to find a place to go? Because now the camps are closing. So I asked her, how have you been living here? I've been here on my own. Because in the camps, they had their own shelters. So now life is going to change. It's like, oh my goodness, now this is serious. The following day, I looked around for one of the social workers who has been helping us, and he's also a member of our yearly meeting. I requested him to look out for all those young girls between 13 to 19 years old who had conceived through rape. At least I tried to see what we can do with them, because I understood the situation they were in, looking on how the community was treating them. The following day, they came about 20 of them. 16 had babies, 4 did not have babies. So we discussed about their future. We said, our future is dark. We can't go back home. No one is going to take us in. Some are even orphans, no father, no mother. Where are they going? Nowhere. And on top of that, I have this child. People are having their own problems. Everyone is traumatized. No one can take me in with a child on top of that, whose father is not known. Then they said, okay, you just wait till people go back home, and then you're going to see who is going to remain behind. But meanwhile, looking at the babies, I felt something has to be done. So I called on a friend. A friend said, oh, let me come and see. Beautiful babies, 1 month old, 3 months, 5 months. And he said, look, you have to do something. Because these babies are going to cold areas. We bought some baby blankets for them. And for those who did not get babies, so to be fair, we had to buy them pieces of fabric so that they can make an outfit for themselves. When people, after a month, people had returned home and they were settled, we said, now let us bring people together all the survivors so that we can know how many people we have. They came to a number of 75. And I asked Rebecca, so what are you really thinking we can do? She said, Zawadi, just figure out what we can do. Okay. I said, well, I know maybe one of the things we can begin with is just to bring them together, because now this trauma was now becoming too much. And then in the camps, they used to get free medical care, food, rationing, at least they know once a month, even if it was little, it was going to come. And then the shelter was free, they're all in a community. And the main part, the most expensive part was shelter. I mean, it was healthcare. Once the camps closed, they're out there in the community like anybody else. So meaning, if they go to the hospital, they have to pay money like anyone else, and they don't have money. But they say anyway, to know if you really want to help these people and to have a sustainable program, we have to do it together. And that's what I told Rebecca. Whatever we are going to do, we're going to do it together. And she was like, but so what do you know what people like us did? I'm like, I can only imagine, but I don't know. And what this again was to help them on the process, to help them reason. Because in terms of reasoning for them, you know, whenever we sit there, we are really having compassion, but we try to just write things down out of our heads without involving them. And here we learn with the assistance. Sometimes they have different priorities, but because we're in a vulnerable situation, they take whatever we give them, but they really didn't need it. And these are people from the villages. So they have their needs, which are completely different from mine or from our understanding. So I said, we have to do these things together. And Rebecca was like, Zawadi, can you reason? I'm like, no. Indeed, I can reason, but my reasoning can be wrong. So we have to do everything together. We are going to work hand in hand together. We began by having listening sessions. This was one of the ways of helping these women at least share what happened to them. And also be a source of inspiration to one another. Because some had this idea that I'm the one who have seen it all. I'm the one who have experienced the worst. But when they hear the story of the next person, they're like, oops, mine is better. This one is terrible. And that one was like strengthening them, because they didn't know each other. No one had ever shared. But it was not an easy exercise, because culturally, you are not supposed to share your problems in public, because people are going to laugh at you and they're not going to give you solutions. People share about the positive things. You share about success. But such things, especially rape, it's a shame. You don't talk about it. But we had to show them as one step of healing was sharing. And through the sharing, we help them now forgive themselves. Because once they were raped, their families blamed it on them. You are the one who caused it upon yourself. So when we have a bunch of people, many people blaming you on doing something, you tend actually to accept it. Yes, I did wrong. And some will be like, yeah, actually that day I went to fetch water. I would have gone earlier, or I would have waited for so and so. But still, she's been doing that way all along, but that particular day it happened. So we try to help them first accept what happened and forgive themselves. Because if they don't forgive themselves, they'll just end up in the circle of violence. And that was now even worsening the situation. After that, we also had to give them sessions in the training of healing and rebuilding our community, so that they can also be able to identify trauma within themselves, within even the community where they lived, which was a way of showing that, you know, even if other people were not raped, but people have trauma. And that also is one of the reasons they cannot even be accepted in their communities. Because here, when we're talking about them being raped, they are raped in front of the whole village. The daughters, the father, the wife is raped in front of her husband, her children. So the whole village is seeing that. And they're all traumatized. And plus the violences they have seen in the wars. So all that affects every individual. It's also a way of helping them know that other people are also traumatized. We work with 3 categories. The first category is the one of girls from 13 years to 19 years old. These are girls who have been forced into motherhood. That means they conceived through the rape. And those who did not conceive had to abandon school. And they are shunned away from their family, so they are on their own in the city of Goma. The second category is of mothers, someone who was married in a steady home, but one particular day she happened to be raped, either going for noble causes or fetching water, and here she conceived, or she did not conceive, but has been shunned away by her family or her neighborhood. And these women, whenever they are shunned away, sometimes they are shunned away with all their children, or if the husband is still alive, or if the husband family is willing, they pick the boys, they remain with the family, with the uncles or the aunties, because the boys will carry on the family name. And then the mother is shunned away with her daughters, because they say these girls will also bring shame up on the family like their mother. The third category of women who have been raped and contracted HIV/AIDS with no access and no idea of how to get antiretrovirals. These women feel that tomorrow they are dying. So bottom line, they are survivors of rape, but they experience pain at different levels. Now here they're in the city of Goma. They have to begin a new life, because some of them, they'll never go back to their villages. And beginning a new life, it means a lot. That means we have to be there for them for a long period, because it's a long project. Like someone who's been traumatized for the last 7 years, 10 years, you don't expect that person to pick her broken pieces and start moving on in 1 year, in 2 years, in 3 years. And this is talking about someone from the village who is coming to the city. Like in the village, the main activity was farming, and their farming is done manually. But here, in the city, we used to eat food they used to produce. Now, we do business, office work, but most of these women never went to school. Some don't even know how to hold a pencil. So he said also to have to keep their minds busy, off the thinking, the whole day, the whole night. At least we have to begin doing something. And this was a way of showing them that we care. Because for someone to have come all the way just to say, can you help us? It meant that she trusts me. She didn't know me. And the worst thing was just to turn away and not do, and just say we can't do nothing. We said, okay, there are different ways we can do things with a little, and even just be creative. On top of their listening skills we were trying to give them, we began with the literacy classes. The literacy classes was mainly to help them, as I said, in the city, be able to even read signposts. They can be able to go to hospitals, different things and different places. They can read for themselves. Here they're beginning a new life. It requires some knowledge. Some had shown interest in business. They have to be able to know how much at least they have invested. It meant teaching them some basic mathematics. They can know how they make if they made a profit or if it's a loss. Some have shown interest in sewing. There's no way they can learn how to sew if they don't know how to take measurements and write them down. So instead, as I also keeping them busy and bringing them together, we can begin with the literacy classes. Because for that particular moment, we felt that it was actually not that much for us. But again, it needed a specific place, because our office was somewhere in the city. So if you bring people together like women, people always come and ask, what's happening there? Why are there only women? And they don't like that. They are very sensitive because they think that, no, these people are going to try and identify us. So we had to have this place for the literacy class, for the listening skill, outside the city, where they can feel it's safe for them. They know one another. No one is going to come and peep and ask questions, what's going on, ABCD. We have some facilitators in Healing and Rebuilding Our Community program who are also women. So they normally come in and help when we do the listening skills. Sometimes we do one-on-one, sometimes we do group listening. And this is also a way of empowering them to know that they can be there for one another. Because most of the time you find that when I come to you, I can be very busy still in the kitchen. Hey, okay, so what's up? I'm very busy. You don't really pay attention. And there are cases if you really want to help them. If they come, that means you put aside whatever you are doing and listen. So that was actually the main purpose of telling people, even showing people the importance of listening. Because if you don't listen, it's very hard also to be helpful. Someone might ask you a question and you respond with another question because you didn't pay attention to what he was telling you. And we also say it's good to create a support group for them, even if they can meet and discuss over something. But we say it has to be an activity, something they can do with their hands, craft thing. And then there are some baskets which are now into the market so much because our government is trying to ban the use of plastic bags. So they said, okay, we can also do this because actually it doesn't require them a lot of movements. As I said, some of them have even disabilities as a result of the rape. So they can't even do hard labor or lift up heavy things. They can just work from wherever they are. So before I came here on the 23rd of last month. They began the basket weaving a week later. And this is just a way of strengthening their relationship. In the support group, they come up together, they do something, and they share among themselves. Because it's a way of a therapy of helping them get things out, helping them know one another. And that also has strengthened the relationship between them. They really love one another. They know each other's home. They can tell you, they actually care for one another. And they really wanted that sense of the community so that they can be there to protect one another. We have other people who join the group and they feel like lost. But because of the love and the comfort they find there, they feel this is the place to be. But together with that, there are challenges. As I said, when they're in the camps, they used to get free medical care. Here they're out there. So when they go to hospitals, they're expected to pay like anyone else. And most of them have to be going for regular checkups. But since they're not feeling pain, you remind, hey, can you go for health checkups? She'll be like, I'm not feeling pain. Because she wants to keep the money to buy food. She doesn't understand that, her checkup is not due to the pain in her body. It's a follow-up to see how she's doing. We have another challenge of getting a vocational training center for them. Because as I said, this problem is not here to end tomorrow after tomorrow. Especially where we are having more people coming in the open. We can say it's a new case per se, but it is not. Because these are people who are reporting who have been raped like 7 months ago. But she's now reporting now because she has been discovered by the doctor. So we expect more people even to come. And we say, okay, those people, they have their highs and lows. We can't force them, hey, join the training. She knows she has to do it, but she has to take her time. So if you have something permanent, where she can feel that anytime I'll join, even for those who will come in later, we don't want to have it like a school, but to run. Anyone who reports and feel that I want to join, she can join. Because some of them had identified the sewing skill, because it takes 6 months and you know how to make this African clothing, which is our daily wear. And after 6 months, she can be able to get some income. The other thing we really wanted is mainly to empower them. As I said, these women, most of them are coming from the villages. They have never managed their own lives. The husband was there, they'll produce, the husband is there who will manage the money, who will manage everything. Her work was mainly taking care of the children, taking care of the kitchen, and the whole family. So when we talked about empowerment, they were like, are we really going to manage living on our own, making sure we have a house, we buy food, and for them it was difficult. We buy water. While in the villages, they never used to buy water. They'll go and get water from the streams, but for them, they're like, even water, my goodness. She used to enjoy fresh vegetables from her backyard, but here she has to buy everything. And she just feels like it's just too much. But we are going to do this together. But we said, okay, to have these women really, if we want it to be a long term, we also have to plan for the future. And one of the plans to help them be able to stand on their own, to get a regular income, was one David has just mentioned, of creating a trust loan, rotative loan for them, because some had shown interest in business. Not everyone is talented in sewing. So now we can do business. And he said, okay, if you have a rotative loan, this can also be helpful. As she does that, she can also go for the basket weaving class. She can go for the sewing classes as well, as she wishes. But at least we know that she's having some income where she can stand on her own, buy her own food, and she can feel that I'm human again. I don't need to beg. And it gives her self-esteem that she can actually do it despite her condition. Because some were really pitying themselves and feeling that they're like handicapped people, they just need to be there and pitied and be done everything. But we tell them to give them this positive thinking. Yes, this has happened, and you can come through it. You can still get money, you can still work for yourself. You can still be able to make your own life. The other plan we have for the future is to get shelter for them. There are some who will never return to their villages. Right now, some of them are able to stand on their own as they live in a community. But there's those young girls who move from one family to another. As I said, people have got their own relatives coming to live with them. And here we have a young girl who is traumatized, having a baby, or we have this mother traumatized with her children. Today she's in family A, tomorrow she's in family B, because some people don't understand them. They can come and stay with you and people will expect, she's a woman. In my culture they say that a woman is never a visitor. So if she's around, she has to help. Some of them can't even do heavy work, but you find when they are left at home, they'll be told, hey, fetch water, do this, and she can't do that. So at the end, she'll collide with her host, and she has to leave, go to another place, where it's not even making her situation better, rather worse. So he said, if you have a shelter, because we understand these people, sometimes they have their highs and lows. They'll wake up and don't even want to talk to anybody. But in a family where she's hosted, they don't understand that. They'll be like, this person, you're doing her good and she's behaving like this. She's becoming stubborn. So she can't really have her freedom. Where we say in healing, she has to feel that she's where she can call home, people who will understand her, people who will move with her, and that requires patience and understanding, which most people don't have. And people will not even know that the way she's reacting is due to the trauma she has, because sometimes people will say, oh, we all have problems. We're also having our own problems due to war. She's not the only one. So we say if they can have a shelter where they can come in as they're figuring out what to do, how to pick up their broken pieces, they can be housed there. The other one is to get regular health care for them. As I said now, since they're out there, they have to be treated and paid like anyone else, which is also a challenge. Whenever she's just looking at the money, I'm not feeling pain in my body. I'd rather go and buy food rather than going to the hospital since I'm not feeling any pain. So we say they have to go for regular checkup. Not because they are feeling pain, but it's a follow-up. But if we have a place, we know that we can assure them that regular checkup. We can even work like with health clinics where we can pay less because it's a big number of people, and they can be encouraged to be going there, go for a checkup because they know it has been paid already or someone is going to pay. And you also think in terms of those girls who have children. They are growing. They need health care. Even now they still need it. And sometimes they refrain, like, I don't have money, they come and call us, we have to put money together in the office and take the child to the hospital, but you have a place, a permanent place for them. We can really encourage them anytime to take the child to the hospital because they're not even hesitant because they know that they have a place where they can access the medical care. Without much ado, I think I can pass to the pictures just to share with you about the two categories we have here, or three rather. This is a girl, she's 16, and that's her baby, which is a product of rape. Here we are having just a meeting with the girls. Can you move on, please? We are having a meeting with all these girls. You can see the one far end there, she's even expectant. This was when it was announced that the camps are going to be closed. So we are trying to meet with them and see what we can do. That one, she's expectant, she's so stressed, she's even wondering where she's going to deliver her baby. That will mean she has to get money. And she was wondering how is she going to access the money because here everything was free. So we're just trying to figure out what to do, what next. How can you still be there for one another? This one has just gotten her baby. She's 19 years old. That baby was 1 month old. And this one, she's 17, and that's what she's having her baby, who was, I think, 1.5 months. This lady in a purple dress, her family was killed because when she got raped, she ran to her father and told the father that she's been raped. She was the only girl in the family. The father went out and followed the militia, asking them what happened. The same night, as they took the girl to the hospital, they came, they killed the whole family. They killed the father, they killed the mother, they killed the brother and his wife, and they left 3 children of her brother. So, and she contracted HIV/AIDS. She's very sickly. She always cries that it's because of her that her family has been killed. I mean, she really can't forgive herself. She's now taking care of the children of her brother, and it's been so challenging just to help her understand and that she's like, I wish I never reported because my father went out, and that was because I came calling for help. That's why my father got killed, and I'm done with my whole family be killed. This one, she's called Neema. Neema in Kiswahili, it means grace. She has a child. She's been raped twice. I think as we share the quotes, her quote is even here. And as I said, these people, if you look at it, they try to be like anyone else. You really can't tell. And that's why we encourage them to speak out. She has she can't even lift heavy things. She has a problem in her back. She underwent 4 surgeries with no success. She's called Rita. She also has a story of her own. She was gang raped by 8 people. She passed out. She was newly married and she had conceived, and that meant to the miscarriage. And the worst thing is that after raping her, they shot her, and then the bullet went through the bladder, through the uterus. So the uterus had to be removed, her bladder could not be fixed. Now she always wears a bag, and you know, sometimes she just cries and crashes like me, I'm just useless. So here we're just trying to register to see who is going where are we going to be finding them, because now they're being to be dispersed in different areas of the corner. And this was in the IDP camps. Those are some of the classrooms. The one holding a baby, she's called Sika. Her mother died when they were fleeing. A bomb was thrown in a group of people, and her mom is among the people who died. So she doesn't have a father. In the camp, she was living on her own. But she has a brother. And the house where they used to live with their mother was still there. So here she was asking if we can work and mediate between her and her brother, because her brother said, I'm not taking you in with that bastard. And she felt, this is our home. It was left for the two of us. We have to live in it. And the brother said, no. If you're coming, you come alone. That baby, I don't want it here. And the girl said, for goodness sake, where am I going? Where? And that baby was almost, I think, 7 or 9 months. She said, no way, I'm coming to my baby. So we had really to come in and try to work with the brother, which was not easy. My male colleagues are the ones who are working with him because he's a man like them. Finally, he said he's going to move out. He can't stay with someone who has exposed herself to so many men. Again, blaming it on her. So we normally have refreshments at the end of the day. So as I said, for those who had conceived, we said, okay, we can give baby blankets to them. So after the refreshments, we were handing them some baby blankets to be able at least to protect the babies, to cover them during the rainy season, which was just actually coming. She's carrying her baby on the back. As you can see, she's still young, and that's her baby also, a product of rape. As I said, they have beautiful, because you didn't want to create some jealousy and inequality and fairness in them. For those who didn't have babies, we are giving pieces of material so that even them, they can get something. That was to balance the emotions. This is one of the classrooms in the time displaced persons camps. And that's why we used to do our meetings. Now, this is as the second category. These are now mothers who got raped and left their homes. We couldn't make put them in one workshop. Girls have their own understanding, and mothers also like to share as mothers. So we put those who are once married in one category and the young girls in the other category. Sometimes we do sessions outside. These are the caregivers, 2 of the women you work with. We also encourage these women, all these babies are product of rape. We encourage them to bring their children when we have trauma healing sessions. This was at the end of the workshop. These are the babies who are born as a result of rape. You can see those 2 here. These 2. They are 7 months old, but we cannot tell. They even malnourished. They are twins. The mother she just throws them there and she goes. So we encourage them, they bring their children, they're all together, and they can comfort one another and advise one another.
They have the hair changes of kwashiorkor or also
Yeah.
protein malnutrition.
This was during the workshop. This is one of the caregivers explaining. As you can see, how come there's fire? That's one of the therapy we do, as telling them, write down 3 things which have hurt you the most in your life. They write them on a piece of paper. For those who don't know how to write, someone else can write for them. And then underline the most painful experience. And then if you want, we give them time to think over it. And if they want, they can share it loudly. And after that, it's more of empathy exercises, whereby we rub each other's shoulders or back for those who are crying. We help them on how you can care for someone. If someone is crying, how do you hand them a handkerchief? How do you, let the person who is in pain feel your presence, that he's with somebody. And at the end, we do collect all those papers, we burn them. They turn into ashes. And we explain to them that, you have shared, you have written on the piece of paper, let that problem go. And look at it as these ashes. It's a way of helping them unloading. We also have mainly group work. We try to encourage them to work in groups so that we can also know and understand their thinking as well, to make them participate, rather than us being there and just telling them things. It's actually more of adult mode of learning, whereby they're not teachers, we are all facilitators, we are all learners. Here at the end, we are trying to do what we call the tree of trust and non-trust, to really try to identify which are the problems in the community. Is there any hope for the future? So they'll begin the non-trust tree. As we know, a tree has got roots, trunk, and fruits and branches. So they'll be able to identify what are the roots, which are the causes of problems and conflict in the society. The fruits will be the consequences people are living. And we'll ask, is there a way of changing the situation? Moving into the trust tree, or to trust the future. And themselves they'll be able to say what kind of roots will be needed, what kind of fruits it will produce. And here we insist also on how a bad tree cannot produce good fruits. And these trees are compared to us, human beings. So we try to look together as a way of even reconciliation. How do we move in a better future together? And decisions come from them, because that's what will help them participate fully and understand the situation better. So this was at the end of workshops where we bring people together. Like we see this girl in the red, she was in the other picture, she had to come and also give her testimony in the group of women, whereby they can know one another and also sympathize with the girls. Now this is a different workshop. Here we are working with local leaders who are in the city and have to try and go and work with people in the villages, especially men and the community at large. Why am I saying men? As I said earlier, these women, once they are raped, they are shunned away from their families. There are some survivors who have got like uncles, who have got aunties, who can take them in. But because they are looked at rape people, dirty people, they bring trouble. If they come in the village, who knows, the militias might come and attack us and rape again. They would rather stay there in the city, we are safer. We say, okay, fine, but look at in the long term, in the future, what's going to happen for such a person who feels rejected and yet she's got people. But bottom line, the whole community is traumatized. So here we are trying to work together and see how even we can go and strengthen the relationship, the trainings at the grassroots level, so that as we are working with the survivors, even people in the communities, people at the grassroots level are also healing, so that some who might meet somewhere all with the same understanding and the same knowledge. So we normally do work in groups according to areas so that people can really brainstorm on the situation on the ground. I always tell people, we always complain, nothing is happening, our government is ABCD. Yes, indeed it is. But you, what are you doing? If you really want peace, It also begins with me. Defining or helping other people to understand it the way I understand it. Because peace has got so many definitions, so many versions. Thank you.
Thank you.